här i disse filttorkene.
Ja.
Alltid fokus. Klar? So after each... All right. Good morning, everyone. Today we are prepping for something called the Nordic Roaster Competition. And this is a competition that we have been entering for, I think, 5 or 6 years. And that we've won, I think, maybe 4 times. Today we're going to roast the coffees that we're going to compete with. And there are 2 categories. One of the coffees needs to be a washed Colombian coffee. And the coffee we are submitting for that part of the competition is going to be coffee from Finca Tamaná, obviously. That's the only farm we buy from in Colombia. And it'll be a coffee that we actually planted the seeds ourselves 4 years ago. So either it'll be a Typica variety or a SL28 variety. We don't really know yet. We have to roast both of them and then pick the one that we like the most, and then we'll submit 4 kilos of that coffee for the competition. The second category is actually a compulsory category, which means all the roasters get sent 30 kilos of the same coffee, so we all have to roast the same coffee and submit for the competition. Now this coffee is a natural processed Bourbon coffee from El Salvador, and as you may know, we're not so used to roasting natural coffees anymore. It's been quite a while since we did it, because I'm not a huge fan of those coffees myself. But this one seems to be a really good one, so I'm looking forward to testing it out on our old Probat roaster. So let's go inside and have a look at how we work. Had a color track 43, and it tasted good. Alright, so it's a little noisy in our store when we're roasting. That's why we're moving our roastery in a few months. But this is Cropster, is the software that we're using to log the curves while we're roasting. So what we're actually logging is the temperature of the beans, which are in there, and also the air inside the roaster. And then it's logging automatically every second, so we can get some nice curves to look at. So while we're testing different roasts, we're actually experimenting on when to apply heat and for how long, how much heat, and also the airflow. We can adjust a little bit to see if we can improve the roasting of the coffee. So when we haven't roasted the coffee before, we just take a standard recipe and try to follow that. And then next week I'll be tasting the coffee to see if we need to adjust the profile in order to improve the coffee's flavor. So right now the coffee is cracking, which means the steam in the beans are creating pressure inside the beans, so it sounds like firecrackers. And from the first crack starts until we dump it, it's what we call development time. And this coffee we're looking for about a minute 20 seconds maximum. So we want it to be quite light. I think we should take it then. So now the coffee is ready. It's being cooled in the cooling tray of our roaster. So once it's cooled, we'll take it out and pack it in sealed bags immediately. And then next week we need to taste this, because when the coffee is fresh, it tastes really strange. There's a lot of carbon dioxide inside. So we need to let the coffee rest for about a week before we can taste the results. And based on those results, we will be able to select a better profile or keep the same profile. We'll see. So after each roast we do in this roastery, we always grind a small sample and we put it on this petri dish. And then we put it inside this laser color analyzer. So in 20 seconds it'll analyze, it'll spin the sample around and then analyze the color of the roasted coffee to see what roast degree we ended at. And this is part of our quality control. And if it's too dark, we need to roast it again. If it's too light, we need to roast it again. But if it's in our little magic window, then we can sell it. 47.24, and that's pretty light. So, but I know from sample roasting this coffee that it needs to be quite light. So I think we're spot on. 47.24. Ikke glemme. So the final quality control is, of course, to taste the coffee. So last week we roasted a couple of roasts of the Tamaná coffee that we're going to submit in the Colombian category. So I've set up one coffee just for a reference, and this is just a Catuai from Honduras. And then we have 3 roasts of the Tamaná SL28. that we're going to test. So small differences in the roast profile might give us a big difference in the cup. So for me now it's a matter of tasting these 3 cups and compare them and see which one I like the most. And maybe there's some elements from each one that we like to combine into a new profile. So this is what we do every Monday for our quality control. But for the competition, it's particularly we're particularly focused on just one coffee and really giving it a good try in the roaster to see if we can improve the flavor. So the cups are now cool enough to taste, and these are, as I said, that we have one reference coffee just to have something to compare with. It's a Caballero from Marysabel and Moises in Honduras. And then we have 3 different roasts of the SL28 from Tabana. And let's start. Caballero tasting really sweet as always. Second cup being quite green, a little roasty as well, so that means it's not roasted in the middle, but it's quite roasty on the outside. So we need to probably not use this kind of profile. Second one being very clean, fruity, bright, nice acidity, sweet, but I think it can be sweeter. So let's see. Last one being quite sweet, but a little roasty. So we might merge these 2 profiles to see if we can kind of take the best of each one. And then we'll do some new tests this week that we will taste next week, and then we'll decide on which profile to use for the competition. So once we have nailed the roast profiles, all that is left to do is to submit some kilos of the coffee for the competition. And the competition is on 14th and 13th of October. And the judges will be all the attendees that are on the Nordic Roaster Forum. So that means if you are attending, you will get a cupping spoon and a cupping form. And then you will submit a score, and the average score, highest score, will win the competition. So you need to be scoring well in both categories to get the highest average score. We're using a Cropster cupping app for this, so that means everything is recorded digitally, and the coffee that we are all supposed to be roasting is sponsored by Belco, the importer that is located in France.